unstable. I feel able to turn the tables. I could do this. Just keep moving, keep your hands up, stupid. I feel lucid, a new viewing. I can see the end, I can see my future, I can view it. It's right there for the taking. Everything I've ever wanted, dreams are just waiting. I just gotta fight for it, willing to die for it, willing to like soreness.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000, it still sucks. This is Philip J. Price, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show, your one-stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
What is up? Welcome back to the Drunk Turkey Show. Big Blue, how you doing, my man?
Doing good. You know, just a long day today. You know, waiting for this exciting show, and then get to take a nap after that. Man, I've been up since like 5:30 in the morning today.
I hear you, man. I had a rough trip back from PA, but the team got it done. The Steelers got the dub. It was ugly with the offense, but you know, win is a win. I'll take it. We'll get better, hopefully, throughout the season. But
they're doing better than my Bears. My Bears are just they're bombing everywhere.
Well, they got some problems. They got some bigger problems coming up too. You guys aren't aware of that. Go check out the Bears defensive coordinator. He's in a little he just resigned today. He's in a bit of a hot seat. Sounds like he put on the wrong tape during film study, and don't look good for him. We'll probably be talking about that in the next couple of days, actually. But while I was gone, there was a new evidence or new documents in the Delphi case, the Richard Allen case, the murders of Liberty and Abby, and basically the defense dropped 136 pages worth of documents pertaining to, you know, kind of pointing into a different direction other than Richard Allen. Like, I know you've heard about it. What are your first reaction to the, you know, what's being said, what's being brought up? I know we're going to talk about it and we'll explain it, but you know, you hear that this is probably a ritualistic sacrifice is what is being described as, and that there are other people possibly involved. What are your initial thoughts there, Big Blue?
I mean, unless they find the evidence of like on the crime scene when there's a bunch of footprints and everything, I don't think it was somebody else there. They would have, you know, been looking for different types of people. Would have said it's more than one person when they did the investigation. So, I just think they're trying to throw out the, you know, the blame, so it won't be so much on him.
Well, right after Richard Allen's arrest, they were kind of hiding some things, and they said that it was because of, you know, and when I say they, I mean the prosecution. There was some things that were being sealed. We weren't seeing everything right away. And the statement was something to the effect that, you know, to protect the case and possible, you know, other suspects, you know, that they may be going for. And a lot of people thought that was Keegan Kline, because Keegan Kline was, you know, talking to Liberty. He was catfishing her. And apparently they had set up an arrangement to meet up at one point.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Blue.
I said I do remember that aspect of it, that they were looking into him because he was in contact with her.
Looking into who?
Keegan Kline.
Oh yeah. You're right. Yeah, I was like, wait, what? Yeah, we're looking into Keegan Kline, and you know, remember the law enforcement talked to him. And then there was all of a sudden there was a search at the Wabash River, and then there was the arrest of a search warrant conducted at Richard Allen's residence, and then about a couple of days later there was arrest. So, given that timeline and stuff, you know, I felt fairly confident that they got their guy, that this was the only guy. But after reading this and knowing the details of the crime scene, I strongly suspect there are more people involved in this. I'm not saying that Richard Allen isn't one of them, but I do think that there are more people involved in this. So we'll go through it. We'll look into it, and I think that it's quite possible that Richard Allen was just the guy that was sent up to the bridge to retrieve the girls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I haven't seen too much into the actual documents. This will be a first for me. I've seen some of the clips and the other podcasts talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Let's start it. Let's get into it. So this is the crime scene itself. Now, trigger warning. This is pretty graphic. And just be warned if you're not, you don't handle these type of descriptions, because it does appear to be very graphic. It is very graphic. So if that's not your deal, I wouldn't listen to this part. But it says here, part of the crime scene. When the members of the search party found the girls in the late morning of February 14, 2017, Abby and Libby had been missing for approximately 22 hours. The scene was ghoulish. Libby was found at the base of a tree with 4 tree branches of varying sizes intentionally placed in a specific and arranged pattern on her naked body. Libby was positioned flat on her back with her arms stretched above her head, touching the base of a large tree. Libby's right hand was covered in blood. Libby's left hand was covered in blood. Blood spots and blood droppings were seen all over Libby's body from head to toe. So just right there in that one scene, they're describing how the scene was staged, right? And we had gotten word that the girls were moved, and this tells us a lot of information about the crime scene. So all of Libby's clothes were taken off, and she had sticks on her that shaped into a V. Now, I'll go through the description, and then I'll bring up a picture that that was brought up on court TV. Libby's right arm was placed along the side of her body. One tree branch had been placed on her left shoulder. This branch was so long that it extended above Libby's head several feet and below her legs for several feet as well. Now, I have a question about these limbs and branches and stuff. Were they from there or were they brought there? I know it's wooded and stuff like that, but I wonder if there was a way of testing that. Trying to figure out if there's branches or things that are missing. I mean, what do you?
Yeah, I mean, it would be something where they would have to, I remember from pictures in the past, they had the crime scene tape going all over the place. So if they did the chopping into the wood there, the tree branches, there would be evidence of that. But if not, then somebody brought it with them intentionally. But then you would be somebody carrying a huge stick. You know what I mean? If it's bigger than her, and she was like at least 5'5", 5'4", maybe 5'7". Yeah. I don't remember her height no more. It's been a while since we talked about her. She was
about. I think she was about. She was a girl, but I don't know how tall she was either. But yeah, it extended several feet. So even if she was 5'6", 5'8", it wouldn't make the long branch was several feet above her head, several feet below her feet. So, you're talking probably, you're saying several, so maybe a 10-foot branch.
Yeah, about 8 to 10, maybe. And then, for somebody to be walking through the trails with that, they would be seen. So maybe they just got it from around there. They had time.
Well, here's the thing. Let me. I'm gonna try to pull it up. Because we have it on Google Earth. Let me find my projects real quick.
Yeah. So the other thing was, I remember from the crime scene where I guess they crossed the river. Remember, and there was like their clothes on one side, I think. Yeah. I wonder if they have like footprints in the mud from the multiple shoe prints. That's
Right.
something the police would have, because that way they probably kept that part secret so they can investigate the person they arrested, check blueprints and stuff like that when they get arrested.
Yeah, no, you're right. So here's the where everything was at, right? This is the scene. Here's the an air view picture of where the trail is, where the bridge is, the Monone High Bridge, and there are some dots on here that reference different areas on this map. So here, over here near, right here, Big Blue, there is a cemetery right next to Ron Logan's address, and this is where the girls' bodies were found. Right there is a possible entrance through here, through the back, and somebody could come down here and get here without
being spotted.
Yeah, I mean, here's the other thing. Remember, he was wearing some heavier clothing, right? He had on a jacket, and it was considered an unusually warm day for the area, right? And there was a lot of speculation that maybe perhaps he'd been out that morning, all morning since the cold, just kind of, watching, looking for something, trolling around. And my thoughts are, if they went to the extent, because this goes into pretty huge extent of the crime scene, and if they're going to that extent, it has to be pre-planned. And I would think that they would have probably, been there a while before the girl showed up. Now, I had a question about why Richard Allen is seen on this highway here at the his hardware store, going towards, the old CPS building, when his work, his home, they were east of that area. And there's no real road that makes sense as to why he would be traveling westbound on this back road, right? I couldn't figure it out. Now, Ronald Logan, his address is up here, so it crossed my mind. Maybe he knew him. Maybe they were acquaintances or whatever the fact, right? Yeah. But if they knew that there's just some old guy that lives here and that he's probably not going to be down here in this area, and they pre-planned this, and Richard Allen came down and helped with, whatever part, right? And, the planning or getting these pieces of sticks and branches together or whatever. And his job is to go get the girls, right? Because there were 3 juveniles that saw somebody matching Rick Allen's description. And Rick Allen himself stated that he was on the trail and he saw 3 juveniles as he entered the trail. So these 2 parties, the 3 juveniles and Richard Allen, both basically have the same statement, right? That they saw each other. So we know he was there, right? And he puts himself there.
Yeah.
But
and then I said there's also the eyewitness that saw somebody walking all muddy and bloody back on the side of the road, like that, and can put his description into them.
Well, according to the this documents, and there's 136 of them, that person's statement, and one didn't say muddy and bloody, that supposedly it was just muddy, and that the person was wearing a tan jacket, not a blue one. I saw that in places. I actually haven't read that myself, but I've been trying to catch up on the case, and I heard that on a different podcast, and they had pulled it up, so I assume it was correct. Now, when Richard Allen comes into the trail, these 3 juveniles say that he was walking with a purpose, like he had to get there, right? He gets there just before the victims do, Libby and Abby, right? And he is possibly seen on the Monone High Bridge by a witness, and he himself puts himself on that bridge, saying that he's looking at fish, right? So
Yeah.
there's that issue. He also, in my opinion, somewhat matches the description of the bridge guy, right? Now, he comes here, he maybe possibly leaves, and we say that these girls probably passed him. He probably turned around, and maybe that's why they thought he was creepy. You know what I'm saying? Like if you pass somebody, because they took some pictures, right? The girls took pictures where they were on the bridge and they were walking on the wood planks or whatever, and you can see behind them there's nobody there. So I think that there's a possibility there that he passed them up, turned around, maybe had some questioned himself on what he was about to do, and then decided to continue and went forward, right? That's all speculation. And Richard Allen is innocent until proven guilty, and everything we're talking about here is just allegedly, right? So the video was taken at 2:13 p.m. I think this is important to note as well. And I believe it was 3:30 when somebody saw the muddy, bloody guy, right? I'm putting that in quotations because I don't know if the person was actually muddy and bloody, heading back towards the old CPS building on this back road here, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just muddy, so, but he still fell in the water somehow.
Right. Now that gives him how much time? From 2:13 to 3:30. That's an hour and 17 minutes, something like that. And so hour and 17 minutes, and that's when he's walking. So he would have had to have walked through through this, through this area on Ronald Logan's property. He would have had to have walked up to the street here to be seen. And so that probably going to take at least a good 5 minutes. The terrain is pretty thick there. I know it was winter time, so it was the trees were naked basically, but there's still a lot of them. And so I would probably think let's measure it out.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bunch of, it was like more like fall time, so there was still leaves on the tree, but I remember when we saw the pictures, there was just leaves everywhere on the ground too.
Yeah. So let's just say he went straight up. That's 4 football fields. If he's walking, or even if he went at an angle, that's 500 football fields, almost 600 football fields between where the bodies were found and this road that he was supposedly seen at 3:30. So in my opinion, I think it's probably more like maybe an hour's time. Thank you, Batshit Crazy, for your $4.99 super sticker. We appreciate that. So you know what I'm saying? So an hour to do everything. Let's continue this with that in mind, that this took only an hour. Libby was placed naked, nude, without her clothes, underneath a tree with her hands up with a bunch of sticks on her in the shape of a V, and they were fastened there, right? They specifically say there. So, well, I'll continue it. I think I got to that part yet. All right. Libby's right arm was placed alongside her body. One large branch had been placed on her left shoulder. This branch was long, that extended above Libby's head several feet and below her legs for several feet as well. 2 smaller branches formed a V where her legs joined her body. Both sides of the V extended upward towards Libby's head, with one branch extending to the left of Libby's head and the other to the right of Libby's head. The last of the 4 branches extended across Libby's body on a line from her right shoulder to her left shoulder. This 4th branch also connected with the branches and placed under both branches that formed the V. Libby sliced Libby's sliced neck was partially covered by this fourth branch. There appeared to be no blood sprayed or dripped onto the leaves or the tree near Libby's head and neck. It appeared likely that her life had been taken at a nearby tree and then dragged to her final resting place, where she was then positioned, having the tree limbs placed on her in a very specific pattern. The actors in this case treated Abby very differently. Abby was found just a few feet from Libby. Her body was not placed parallel to Libby's, but rather a few feet away, rather at an angle, with Abby's legs just a few feet away from Libby's legs. However, both of their heads were found fewer feet apart from each other. So that sounds like, although they were a few feet apart, it sounds like they were kind of making a V formation. Is that what it sounds like to you?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. The V and then like a cross at the bottom, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a.
And so let's continue this. Significant difference existed between Libby's body and was found and how Abby's body was found. Abby was not found at a base of a tree. Abby was fully clothed. In fact, Abby was dressed in Libby's sweatshirt and jeans. No blood appeared on Abby's clothing, meaning that her life was likely taken while undressed and then dressed by the actors in this case after she expired and after her blood had stopped spilling from her neck area. So she was also attacked in the neck. Right. And we have to assume that Richard Allen by himself was on the bridge, forced these girls down the hill across this creek, which according to this document goes up to about 3.5 feet, and he's only 5'4", so that's about chest high for him. Cross over, subdue these girls, while they're alive, have them undressed, and then without them screaming or any of those things by himself. I'm not buying it. What do you think, Blue?
Yeah, like I think for one of them not, I've said it since the beginning, for one of them not to have tried to run, yell, scream, or fight, like we know a gun was used in the situation, but even at that, one of them might take the risk to get help. But I think it is sounding more like he might have had help. But I mean, he's the one that, if he knows the truth and he can point the police to the right people to get those other people off the street, is the one that has to talk. But I don't think he will. I mean, we saw how he's acting all crazy now that he confessed by accidentally, not thinking that the conversations between him and his wife are going to be recorded.
Well, he talks about that. They talk about that situation here. They talk about how there's this Odinites, right? That this is a religion, and not everybody that's an Odinite goes to, this length or whatever. I'm not really familiar with it at all. So I don't know, but I do have read and heard that it was not common for these things to be done, right, out of this group, but that within that group there is a subgroup of, what is the word I'm looking for? There's a group of radicals, and that are basically witnesses. And apparently, according to Richard Allen, he's saying that some of the guards have this, Odin type of patches on their uniform, and that he was threatened that his wife and kids would be harmed, and that they basically told him that they would be harmed if he didn't kill his wife and tell them and confess to her. I know it's a little far-fetched, but what do you think?
I don't know, man. It's one of those things where if that is the case, he, he's talking, so they're either gonna move him, put him in solitary, maybe just
He's
trying to get
already
out.
there.
I don't know.
They're gonna have to move him to another place, another facility.
Yeah, somewhere different part of the state. But I think I think with all this, he's still trying to get placed like in a mental facility, and I think he's trying to play the system to get somewhere else.
I'm still.
Maybe it is true but maybe the badges can also be certain groups of officers or workers have a certain emblem to represent them.
Right. I don't know like how big this religion Odinism. Yeah, no. All right, well, let's go up to there real quick. Page 15. Now I'm seeing a footnote on page 15.
But it's one of those things where two innocent little girls lost their lives, man. So it's a sad thing to talk about sometimes. So my condolences go out to the families. Our condolences because it's sad, man. They think by this time they would have been around 21, right? Or they would have been already adults by now.
Yeah, they would have been adults by now. So no, it's extremely sad. So it sounds like they were, based on this, it sounds like they were that had stopped spilling blood, right? That sounds like they were drained. You know what I'm saying? How long do you think that process would have taken?
I mean, the slice of the neck, a few minutes. And if you get a big artery, it'd take a few minutes.
Well, a few minutes to pass, but how long would it take for the blood to come out of the body, like to completely exit it?
To completely
Using gravity. Yeah, just using gravity. They're expired. A person, or let's look at a deer. Have you ever done that to a deer?
A long time ago. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, deer and goats. It only takes a few minutes.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time. So that has to happen, and also the staging has to happen within an hour by one person. It just doesn't sound right. So let's continue this. Abby's hands were clean, no blood. Abby's feet were clean, no blood. No other blood was found around Abby's neck area where the assailants had inflicted the fatal wound. Very little, if any, blood was found anywhere else on Abby's body or clothing. I don't know how to say this word, but I think you know what it is, Blue. I'm going to highlight it for you. It's like juxtaposition.
Yeah, juxtaposition.
What is that? I think that's... Oh, never mind. That's of spots and streaks of blood found all over Libby's body with a lack of blood on Abby's body. Okay, that's just saying that there was... I get it. And it says here that lack of blood on Abby's body, undergarments as well. So they also put back on undergarments, not just the outside clothes, but the undergarments as well. Overgarments is stark, so very little. And the murderers appear through great lengths to keep Abby's body clean from blood. I don't understand that aspect of it.
Yeah, and then right there they admitted they put murderers, in this.
Well, this is from the defense. They're claiming that there's other people involved. So you got to also take this with a grain of salt. Remember in the Brian Koberger case, you had a situation where, the defense is saying that the prosecution were questioning their, were tampering with their witness and all these other things, horrendous accusations against them. And the defense was like, no, it's just, she was recanting. So FBI went to go talk to her. And I don't know if that's good or not, or appropriate or not, but two different views of the situation. One of it downplaying it probably below what it needs to be downplayed, and one of them overplaying it. You know what I'm saying? So the truth is probably somewhere in the middle there. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Abby was found on her back. However, unlike Libby, Abby's elbows were bent with her right and left arms both placed on her chest. Abby's left hand and arm near the left side of her face, and her right hand and arm near the right side of her face. So something like this, right? Abby's left hand. All right, never mind. I saw that. So also, Abby's left leg was straight while her right leg was bent at the knee. The murderers also placed the bent right leg underneath her left leg. Like Abby, those involved, the murderer had placed 3 branches in a specific pattern on top of Abby. The pattern looked very similar to an asterisk consisting of 3 branches, all joined in the middle. And it says number 17, which is this stick configuration is a spot-on resemblance for the ruin called Hagel. This ruin is used to depict the word hail. Therefore, the combination of the Hagel ruin found on Abby and the Annus ruin found on the tree combined would proclaim Hail Odin. This Hail Odin is one of the many Easter eggs Brad Holder left behind on his Facebook page on multiple posts. So there was apparently above Libby. So it'll probably say it right here in a minute. So I don't think I passed that. All right, right here. It says, in addition to the unusual way the girls were posed, including a stick formations placed on their bodies, another unusual marking was found nearby a tree. A symbol that looks similar to the letter F appeared approximately 4 feet above the base of the tree. It says number 19. The F resembles the ruin called Anzu, which stands for Odin. Again, when paired with the Hagel ruin found on Abby, the combination would proclaim Hail Odin. This F symbol was the same F symbol found in many of Brad Holder's Facebook pages, which will be attached, including Holder's creepy self-drawn illustrations in which a red F ruin was found in the base of a tree where a man to be sacrificed. So let me pull those images up real quick.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, man.
It is, dude. It's insane. So, like, and remember, we're supposed to believe one person did this. Now, I think that this drawing is wrong a little bit, because it said that this is Libby, right? And these are supposed to be the symbols that are the branches that were left on their bodies. It said that the long branch extended above her head several feet, and that was on her left shoulder, and that it went down past her feet several feet. So I think that this branch was more straight. I think this tree was probably a little bit more to the right, and it went along the tree like that, and it went straight down. I'm not sure about this asterisk, if that's the way it was described, because no, I don't think it was that. Yeah, and I'll show you why.
It's good when they describe sometimes the body parts, they go sagittal. I think it's sagittal planes. You ever seen the picture of the guy with the palms forward? That's what they use to be able to describe the body. So it's always the left side that's going to be the left side, but even if you're facing the wrong way, it's still your left side. So it's the way that you would look at them facing them.
Interesting. Well, I think this picture is is depicting facing Adam, because the left arm is on the right side and the right leg bent. And as you can see, they're kind of at an angle.
Yeah.
Right. Now, this is Brad Holder. This is the guy that is one being basically accused against him as having some sort of involvement. They even go into his alibi, into a lot about this guy. And apparently he was investigated by police and cleared. But this is the asterisk that he had on his finger. And if it was, they said that this asterisk on his Facebook that he put on his finger on April 7, 2017 was very similar to the asterisk that was found on the body. Right. And they said that there was one branch that went across the neck, basically. And I think this is where, that's where it was. This is the asterisk. Possibly, right? And on this post, Brad Holder says, so the past 2 days I've drawn to the Jibo ruin. Last Saturday, I hit it on the way to work. Earlier this week, I sold my Dodge. For that money, I ordered a new bumper. This morning, I hit a raccoon on the way to work. Not that I don't appreciate gifts the gods are giving me, both positive and negative. I don't think my nerves can handle much more gift giving. Let's try to slow this down within Issa ruin. Issa, Gibo, Issa. I don't want to continue to read that, but what do you think about that? And this was April 7, 2017. So this is just what, almost 2 months after the incident.
Yeah. Those was the Viking gods to the one, or which kind of gods to the raising?
Yeah, Viking.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them, man. So it's pretty crazy that the way the sticks were formed on them, man. We didn't know that. All of a sudden they kept it from us. And then
yeah. And so this is the F. This is an illustration that was on Court TV last night, representing the F that was drawn on the tree. And it does look like in the main part of the F, the part going down, angled and down, it looks like dots, right? Some people say maybe perhaps it's blood splatter. Maybe it could be, but you're looking at, you got to remember the texture of the side of a tree, right? It's not smooth. And so if somebody put two fingers in and then, drew the F, I think that's what it would look like on bark. What do you think, Blue?
Yeah, it wouldn't be, if it's bark on there, it's going to skip pieces, because the grooves. And for it to be splatter, it'd be more everywhere.
Right. I agree. And this is the F that they're trying to say. I mean, I don't know if it's an F. It could be. It very well could be. But it does look like it has the possibility of being drawn on. I don't think this is a stretch to say that this is an F. They have so many symbols. It could be something else. But you know what?
Yeah. They did say that her body had like the blood driplets everywhere, right? So it could be the motion of them swinging, whatever they were swinging, like probably a branch dipped in blood or something to cause those. But yeah, it's weird. So that means it wasn't just like a crime opportunity; it was planned. And did it know what religion Richard Allen was?
Apparently, according to the defense, no ties or is not linked to Odinism.
Yeah. I never even heard of that religion till today.
Apparently, it's the growing one up in the Midwest and in that area. It's bigger than what I would have known. This is a painting of Brad Holder's that he created and he put on his Facebook. I want to say it was like 3 to 4 days after the anniversary, the first anniversary of Libby and Abby's life being taken away. And this is a drawing that he put on there on his Facebook, and it said something to the effect like, "Hail Odin." And the curious thing is, this is not the best picture, but there is an F right there inside that circle. And I've seen a clearer picture than this. That it is a clear F in there. Now you see he's hung upside down and he's dripping blood. Yeah, I think that the scene kind of describes this, from what we've seen, not to the extent of this, but like, especially Abby, she'd have blood on her. I think from what I had heard and understand too, is that the scene didn't have that much blood, around.
Yeah.
And so it appears that the blood was collected somehow.
It sounds like it might have, because they would have said it was all over the one spot. Because when you bleed, man, you bleed out a lot. And then to be dripped all over her body, it means somebody was able to collect from the pool of it and sprinkle it. The blood will make droplets, but to do it all over her body like they explained it, they would need a lot of it.
Oh, I forgot to mention this Holder guy. No, I don't know if he's involved at all. I'm not familiar with him prior to this document being put out, but his son was dating Liberty at one point. Like, do you think that could be we know that she was trying to invite, kids to the Monhan High Bridge. We've heard from, students or kids that were, there was one boy in particular who stated that he had gotten invited to go to the bridge, and from his understanding that Libby and Abby were trying to get people to go, and he couldn't. He had to go help his dad. So is it possible that his son was one of the people that maybe they tried to get going?
Somebody said they were dating Abby. Like 2 people said that. I'm not sure. I have to read into the documents.
What?
That he was dating Abby.
I thought it was. I could have swore it said Libby, but all right. I mean, it could be Abby. I'll go back and read the document again. But these were also pictures that he had on his Facebook. And then so this is, some of the things that he was saying in the comment section. I'm sick of this. Just put me smack dab in the middle of this again. So saying it again, meaning that he was investigated probably very thoroughly, in the beginning, despite what the defense says. Remember, you got to take what they're saying with a grain of salt. They're going to exaggerate a lot of things to create doubt, right? And so Laura tells him, "I'm sorry, can't even imagine. The worst part of these armchair detectives." He's referring to you and I, Big Blue. Just so you know.
Hey, man, we've been called out by a lot of people, and I'm surprised if he's called us out too.
So this is another photo that he posted. I think it was on the year anniversary or one of the anniversaries of the passing. It says, "Stop child predators." And this is with him without a beard. I think during the time of this incident, he had a pretty big beard. So I don't think he's the guy that's on the bridge. Apparently he was at work or something. I don't know, but he does wear those hats, and that was one thing that pointing out is, he wears those type of hats. He could be the bridge guy. I don't know about that, but he is, somebody you would expect to be, looked at. Now, the fact that his son was dating one of the victims at one point, I think that is kind of weird, and it should be investigated at the very least. You know what I'm saying? It was that child and that kid, his son, invited to that area. Did they have knowledge that they were going out there that morning beforehand? You know what I mean? And
yeah,
right. And so there could be evidence of that. All right, let's continue. This says here, under Abby's left lower back was a shoe was found. This shoe is believed to be Libby's shoe. Under the shoe, a cell phone was found. The cell phone was later determined to be Libby's phone. This information was confirmed by the recent disposition testimony of Liggett, Liesenby, and Holman. According to recent depositions taken by Sheriff Liggett, the famous video of the person that many call Bridge Guy was found on. Additionally, alleged found between the girls, buried under the leaves and dirt, was a single bullet. So that the bullet was buried under the dirt, under the leaves. Don't say how much, right? It could have been stepped on or something during some sort of scuffle and kind of got pushed into the ground. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And, but I wonder how, like, maybe when they're moving stuff around and fill out this pocket, and then just when the girl's body's on, they covered it.
Yeah, like I said, is it possible? Think about this, Blue. Is it possible that the defense is putting this out there? They named people by names. There's like 5 names in there, right, of people that could possibly be involved. And the way the reasoning behind it is that they're saying that these guys are more likely than Richard Allen to have committed this crime based on the information from the scene, the things that they've had on their Facebook, the fact that he's real little, he's 5'4", that he doesn't have the means to do this, or, the motive, right? Means and motive are a pretty big component to, somebody committing a crime and convicting them, right? You want to know the means, you want to know the motive. The defense is claiming there's no connection between Richard Allen and the girls. There's no, on any other electrical devices or anything, was he ever texting them? Did he have access to, their social media pages based on the phones and the information they have? That doesn't mean that he didn't have another burner account that, that phone might be in a river somewhere, right?
Yeah, look at the Long Island killer. He had burner phones. He hid his stuff from his family.
That's true. And so, they're saying there's no evidence outside of the bullet and him putting himself on the scene that, I guess, ties him to this case. No, his DNA isn't there. The victim's DNA wasn't found on any of the search warrant or any of the stuff that was collected in the search warrant. They didn't find, I don't think they found, it didn't sound like they found souvenirs or anything based on what they're saying here.
Yeah. But I think they're looking at, like you said, the confessions there, but not just saying that he was coerced to confess.
Right.
So that's a hard one. I'm pretty sure they'll be able to trace to see if any of the guards or officers or sheriffs, depending where he's being held, have any ties to this guy or any ties to that religion, and see how that goes.
I mean, the other thing is too, I mean, you look at his health, he's really deteriorating. You look at his body, he looks like he's lost a lot of weight. is it possible that he has some sort of paranoia? And it may not be, to the extent, that he is relaying that is out there, right? There might be some folks with Odin patches, and he might, think in their mind they're telling him these things about his family. But could it be not real?
It could be. It could be, a part of his imagination he made up. He has been, and this is the part where it's like, I'm not trying to blame him or victim shame him, but like, he has been committed to a psych ward for a while. Who's
in a psych ward?
Not a psych ward, a mental rehabilitation or mental facility for a couple of days before this happened.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, he's deteriorating, and that affects a lot on the brain.
Maybe. But, what I'm thinking is, though, is it possible that, with his rapid weight loss, his emotional roller coaster that he's gone through, is it possible that he's now going under some sort of psychosis, insomnia? Apparently he's refusing to eat, refusing to do things. I think those can coordinate to a person who, it's not impossible to, or not improbable to think that he might be a little bit paranoid and delusional, right? Not saying that he is. I don't know. Right?
But what if it is true? Let's throw a curveball. What if it is true, and they're threatening to poison him, and that's why he's not eating?
I mean, that makes sense.
It's one of those things where, like, there's going to be so much people going down rabbit holes with these stories that it's hard to tell what we want to believe.
The more believable story would be they're not feeding him, and they're just claiming that he's not eating. You get what I'm saying? So it could be as simple as that. But I think that there's probably some cameras in that facility, right? It's freaking 2023. Yeah. There should be cameras all over the freaking place. Cameras in the cell, cameras outside. So, there should be cameras everywhere. So
yeah, I think in the cell, I think they're in there, and some, it's just not like in some of the restroom areas, so they do get privacy. And then outside areas, I don't think he gets any of that kind of stuff, like privileges 1 hour a day, right? Of daylight, I think, or
he's in. Yeah, I think he's in solitary based on the fact of the nature of the crime. Apparently, he also gets harassed by the guards. There's been another inmate from the same facility that's saying that he gets harassed and emotionally abused by the guards. I don't know how true or false it is. We've heard stories from a lot of people who are incarcerated or locked up with other high-profile suspects. Remember the Brian Koberger case? There was a lady who came out of the same facility. She was released, and she was telling people that he was saying, "I'm gonna cut you" or something like that. Came out to be completely false. So you got to take those things for a grain of salt. Some people do want their 15 minutes of fame. So,
the one thing that doesn't cross my mind is the defense. They're naming these people by their name, and if they are found to be not true, these people can probably sue for defamation and win.
Well, maybe not, because they're not saying that's stuff that's not true, right? To get defamation, you have to be, lying about somebody to defame them. If these individuals were investigated by law enforcement at a certain time and the defense is bringing that up in question, that's not a suable offense. Now, if one of us or a content creator goes out and says that's definitely the guy, you know what I'm saying? Then we would be in trouble. But for like us, I don't know if this guy's involved or not. This is the first time I've ever heard his name, and I know he's been brought up before, and he's been subject of conversation in the past. but we barely got into the Delphi case when Richard Allen was arrested, right? Or right before his arrest. And so we don't know all of the backstory theories and the conspiracies and the possibilities and the probabilities and the minutia of this case, like we do, like for instance in Idaho, the Brian Kober. So, our conversation today is just one of folks that are, I guess, on the outside to a certain extent, trying to have a conversation to figure out, is it logical? Is it possible that one person could have committed all these things? And according to the affidavit, if accurate, within an hour. I'm not saying. I think there's more people involved. Are the other people involved, these 5 individuals that the defense has brought up? I don't know, maybe. They're bringing them up. Do you think that it's possible that he's preparing for a plea deal with this information?
I want to say maybe if he, let's say if he was one of the bullet puts him there, right? So let's say he was one there but didn't do the actual slaying. He was just one of them that, I guess kind of kidnapped them, because that's what I guess they're gonna probably charge him with. And then part of the murder. So maybe they would put him in a lower maximum prison and not give him life in prison.
Yeah, I think he brings up in this document like his family and his family's safety and things like that. I think that he's going to make a plea, possibly, if this is what it is. He's basically saying, right? Without going out there and saying, oh, it's those guys. His defense team is coming out saying, hey, there's these 5 guys that were looked at briefly, but here's their scenario and why they probably should have been looked at a little bit harder. So it's not really him coming out saying it's them at this point. But who's to say? Let's say they tell him, we'll put you in a different place. We'll make sure your family's safe. We'll put them in some sort of, we'll move them somewhere, right? And for a guilty plea. What do you think? Do you think that's a possibility? Because I think that there's a possibility. That's the reason why he's already 5 people. Is that, hey, there's, he might know something more. What do you think?
I think so, man. I think he's taking a chapter out of the Tekashi 6ix9ine book. He's in a rat and hopefully try to get out. And I don't think that's gonna happen, but because this is way worse than Tekashi. But I think he might plea if he honestly wasn't the one that did it. If he had help. I mean, I'm not saying he didn't do it, but I'm just saying he wasn't the only one there. Why is he gonna go down? Why is his family being threatened, and all these guys get to live their life while he's sitting in whatever a cell size is now, 8x10.
Yeah. Now, do you think with this evidence that's out there, let's just say that's not the case and he decides to go to court, right? Do you think that this evidence, the way that the defense is showing this, that there's going to be some reasonable doubt amongst the jury?
I think that the only reasonable doubt that they could be is that he did it by himself.
Well, I mean,
he put himself
if the
prosecution,
right. No, I understand all that, but the prosecution has to find a link between, him and Odinism or him and, do they have his cell locations for the entire day? Do they know where he was at? You know what I'm saying? Like those type of things. And I think that the defense is going to have to, or the prosecution is going to have to show how despite all of this, all of these symbols and staging of it being a ritualistic ceremony, was done in efforts to elude law enforcement about what he did. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. But why blame such a minute group of people? I mean, it's growing. Like I said, it's growing. But I've never heard of it. I've seen it like in Viking movies. The Viking shows where they go pray for Odin, and they have their the witches that are priests, they call it. And I mean, it's a pretty interesting religion.
Yeah.
But why blame them? Like, what are you gonna get out of it? It's such a small group that it'd be more of a understanding if he's like, oh, it was a Catholic priest, because their history, and so I don't know.
Yeah. Now, in here in this document, there's apparently a situation where Brad Holder's ex-wife is told by Brad Holder that one of those 5 guys that are mentioned actually committed this crime against Libby German and Abigail Williams, and that it was because one of their mothers were in an interracial relationship, and that was against their white supremacy, right? I don't know how true, or I need to find that part, but I had read that in here. What do you think about that statement?
If it's a legit confession from the ex-wife, there might be some truth in it. I mean, the only thing that she gets out of it is putting the ex on a spotlight for for no reason, if it's not true. But if it's true, it's like, hey, I kept the secret for you, I'm done. And that that throws a curveball in there.
Let's look at what his alibi was. This is Holder's alibi was not scrutinized, and evidence supports Holder recruited men in firm Elvis Fields to assist in the abduction and the murders of, while Holder tried to stand behind a shady alibi. All right, so it says, whenever Holder's name was brought up as a suspect, one reason that keep popping up as why Holder was cleared as a suspect was his alibi. An unclassified FBI report revealed the work or lack of work that law enforcement performed to check out Holder's alibi. The document is marked Exhibit 65. This report, prepared on April 13, 2017. In this report, Pulaski Sheriff Deputy Frederick Rogers followed up at Liberty Landfill in an attempt to verify the employment and the work schedule of Bradley Holder. Susan Case from Human Resources stated that Holder's time card showed that I clocked in at 4:55 a.m. and clocked out at 2:45 p.m. Chase also said that she would only be the only person that could manipulate the electronic time card. Chase further admitted that there was a security camera on site. Here's how Deputy Rogers memorialized the part of their investigation. Case advised Brad drives a junky red truck to work with G on the front bumper. Case advised the security camera at the scales may have picked up his vehicle coming and going on that date. Case advised that Holder stays on the property for his lunch break. The short report concludes that this case provided this officer a copy of a timesheet for the week showing Brad indeed had clocked in and out on February 13th, and he was still at work on this date. Here's what we don't know about Holder's alibi at work. So first and foremost, he's claiming he's at work. There's a camera there shows him, coming and going. He stays there at lunch. He's there to at least 2:45 p.m. We know that this incident had occurred around 2:13. Well, that's when. Thank you, Heather. We appreciate you. That is when the video for Bridge Guy is taken at 2:13 p.m. So we suspect that these things happening within an hour. So within 2:13 to about 3:13, because you see him walking at 3:30, right? Allegedly.
Yeah.
Is that enough time for this guy to get out of work, go contribute to whatever's going on? Maybe he's part of the again, speculation, the ceremonial part, not necessarily the getting that and getting things prepared. You know what I mean? Like the sticks and everything. Once everything was done, maybe he just possibly, I don't know anything about this guy. I don't know if he has like a history of anything either. I'll be checking into those things as we dive more deep into this case. It says, here what we don't know about alibis, Holder's alibi at work. Did someone clock in for Holder? There's nothing that Jay said about the clocking in process that would prevent someone else from clocking in for Holder. Hold on, I want to read this footnote. It said 93. It says, if Holder was at work the day the deputy showed up to vet Holder's alibi, it would have been a great time to interview Holder and those around him to better determine if Holder was at work on Monday, February 13, 2017. So basically what they're saying is, when the deputy showed up and didn't ask, or question Holder or ask anybody else about his work, that is some sort of indication that it's not him. It's weak. I don't know. I don't like that. What do you think?
Yeah, because they didn't investigate enough to see if he was actually there the time they went. They just wanted to see the videos.
Well, I mean, recollection and memory, things of that nature are not the most reliable. So I would want to see time-stamped video footage too. And if there's something that doesn't look right, then that's when you start to investigate people and you start asking questions. You can't really just blindly go and ask somebody a question. You got to have some information. You have to have something in your back pocket to pull up when you're conducting that interview. You'll be talking to somebody and you got to first you make a friend, so to speak. You try to drop the shield when you're talking to a witness, and then get them to open up a little bit. And then after that, you just in your questions. And then if something comes up awry, then you just kind of bring that up at that point, right? Like, hey, I know you said this, but would you be surprised if we have footage of this? What would you think about that? And it may not even be real. They may not even have the footage. I've done that before, and it works. People get nervous and say, what they have to say, but you can't just go in there blindly. You have to have something in your pocket, right? Go in there and you just say, hey, was he not there? And he says, no. Well, I mean, that's all you got. Now, if you find out something later, then I guess you can go back and hit him with that. But I just feel that at that moment, you probably just want to get the legit information. You also don't want to spook him, right? Let's just say that, I know they're talking to some person, so it might get out. But if he's really the guy, you don't want to talk to him in that moment or his closest coworkers in that moment that could tip him off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, he gets out around the time that the thing happened. Who said that the stuff was placed on them right away? You know what I mean? It could have been placed that afternoon. They didn't find them till the next day.
That's true. But here's the thing though, Blue. They weren't that far away from the bridge, and there was an active search going on. I want to say, well, one of the fathers showed up at the trail at 3:00 because they weren't responding, and he was up and down that area looking for, those two little girls. And people started getting called. People started going out there, and people started a search that day. I strongly don't think that this. I doubt, let me put it this way. I highly doubt that especially when I read a little bit earlier that apparently Abby was hitting an artery, but was a smaller one. And so she passed from a slow passing. which was horrific in the words that they wrote it. But which is why I didn't say it. But that has to happen. These girls had to bleed out and all those other things, and I don't think that took an hour. I think that took longer. And the thing is, I don't get how something wasn't heard or seen from people in that that were searching in that area. Do you think there's a possibility they took them somewhere else?
I don't know. I'm like, it'd be very bold of them, because I do remember them saying that the dad did show up that afternoon, and that they started searching like by 5, and then that they stopped searching that night because it got too dark, and they started back up again the next day as soon as daylight.
Shannon says you guys got it all wrong. They're not saying this was done in an hour. Oh, sorry, ma'am, you got it wrong too. We're not saying they're saying that this was done in an hour. I'm saying that if there's a video taken at 2:13, and if Richard Allen is seen walking on the back road at 3:30, one would allude that if he was the sole perpetrator of this crime, that crime was committed within an hour, because of the time and distance from him to walk to the crime scene to the street where he was visible is probably, it's 5 football fields. I would assume it's probably going to take 15 to 17 minutes. Right. So, that's the reason why I said that it was an hour.
Yeah. It's hard to tell, because they did search for him that afternoon. I remember that. Like, it's been a while since we deep dived into this case, so I don't remember everything off the top of my head.
Right. But so, like, a lot
span. So,
here's the other thing. So they're asking, did someone clock out for Holder? And here's the thing, that they're asking these questions without, I don't know. I feel like there's a possibility that these things were done or asked, but when it came out that he was at work and stuff, I think they moved on. But somebody clock out for him. Did Chase actually watch the video? So they're accusing the deputy of not watching the video. Did anyone in law enforcement watch the video allude to by Chase? And if so, what did they see? So they want to know if anybody else saw something, and if Chase was lying about his accounts of what he saw on the tape. And then he goes, even if Holder's truck was viewed on video, was Holder the person driving the truck as it left the work site? I think that may be probably the best question when it pertains to the questions that they're asking. All right, it says it's only 24.3 miles or 32 minutes, Buffalo, Indiana to Delphi, Indiana. The distance and time was arrived by a simple Google search of the distance between Buffalo, Indiana and Delphi, Indiana. I don't know the distance or the time, or if there's any type of traffic that's going on through. I think it's a rural area, so it may not really take that long to travel 24 miles. But it says he could have been in Delphi before 3:15. If Holder left at noon and had a buddy clock out for him. See, this is like huge speculation. Unless they know something. Do you think they know something, to be putting this crap out there?
Like I said, maybe if our Richard Allen is like, hey, I wasn't the only one. I'm not going down by myself. Maybe he's named some names, and maybe he had proof. And it might not be at home, but maybe they want somebody to do some investigation to maybe get some truth out of there, or just to rule them out, but just to put a little bit of benefit of the doubt into the jury pool that they get. Just by reading the chat, a lot of people think Richard is innocent.
Yeah. I don't know if he's innocent, but I don't think he did it alone. So,
yeah.
And when I say put out crap like this, is because they're accusing this guy, and they're saying that he could have gotten there and been there at 3:15. And the part that's a speculation aspect is, they're saying that he may have had a buddy, clock out for him. I don't know about that aspect. Right. Is it possible that he had? Yeah. But where's your evidence? Where's your receipt for that? You know what I mean? Before you put that out there. Conclusion that Holder was there all day. Then Holder could have been on the trail by 1 p.m. This is why watching the video and interviewing employees who worked alongside Holder would have been a critical step to the investigation. Now, I agree that at a certain point, they probably should have. I don't know if they did or not. Clearly, they talked to the clerk and they got some video of him going and coming. I don't know. Maybe that was enough. Maybe they spoke to somebody that saw him after a certain time. I don't know. But the defense isn't previewed or privileged to like every document that police officers and everything that they had done. If they went down something that ended up being a dead end, it's not necessarily something that all the information has to be given, just some of the specifics.
Yeah, I was gonna say normally they keep a profile who they investigated and what they asked, and because like even I think they said they had video when Richard Allen went to go talk to him about his being at the park.
Yeah,
on the trail.
And it's not right. Richard Allen said he was on the trail. Yeah, but when it comes to this right here also. Saying that he could have been on the trail by 1 p.m. I think he had a big beard, so I don't think he would be the bridge guy, right? He would have to be, but they say on the trail, so I don't know. So they just go back to those questions. Police ever consider that Brad Holder convinced his minions to abduct and participate in sacrificing the girls until he arrived? Evidence supports this theory, including a sketch of the man observed milling around the high bridge near the spot of the famous video. That sketch resembles Elvis Fields. Even Trooper Purdy can't deny that fact. So these are the people that they are saying that possibly could be involved. There's Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall of Delphi, Johnny Messer of Rushville, 125 miles from Delphi. Elvis Fields, also 125 miles. Rushville's Johnny Messer. Go ahead. What's up, Blue?
Are they tying them in because they're like people who are in this religion, or are they tying them in because they're sexual predators that have a a case against them, and they have to register to the state?
It is there. It was the first one. I can't remember what you said.
That they're Odin.
Yeah, they're part of that religion, exactly, and they have ties to Brad Holder apparently.
Okay.
So they kind of explain, some of that. It's interesting, man. There's a lot more to go through. We're going to kind of read through most of this. I just got back into town like super late this morning for my trip. So I'll link to the bits and pieces of this. But I wanted to, just kind of have a conversation with you, Big Blue, on talking about what we do know from this. And, the description of the crime scene more than anything was probably the biggest, eye-opening thing for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it definitely doesn't describe a scene where somebody single-handedly committed that. They also said that one of the branches was like cut, like it was smooth, like it was cut with a saw or something.
Okay.
So it just screaming premeditation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I didn't say when he was on the trail, it didn't like he had a backpack with a saw or anything in his hand. He just had whatever he was carrying on him.
I mean, I go back to why was he on this back road? Right, heading westbound to the old CPS building, like in front of the Hoosier Hardware store, right? Like that part just kind of bothered me. Like, why would he be traveling down this road? And him walking fast at the trail, leads me to believe that he was going with, if he was going with a purpose, there had to be a reason. And I don't find it coincidental that if he was involved in this case, that shortly, within minutes of his arrival, that Libby and Abby made it. Yeah, it was Libby. I was right. Thank you, Angela. So, when you put those things together, it just seems to me that there's a good possibility that, if Richard Allen committed this crime, which I don't know, man. I'll be honest, I don't know, dude. Like, what do they have on him? They have the freaking bullet and that he was there.
The bullet, he was there, and then the confession.
But the thing is, the
coerced. So,
and the defense also said that the bullet was buried, but they said that there was no clear pictures of where the bullet was taken out. Its resting spot. They basically picked it up and took a picture of it. So they question if it was actually buried where it was. Yeah, I would too.
That's their job. Their job is to try to get their client off of whatever they're getting accused of, and try to break every single theory, every single piece of evidence that they have against him. Mm-hmm. Find the minutest thing to be able to just get it dismissed. So they're trying to get, do their job, what they got hired for. That's why the prosecution is going to have with some of this new information, they're going to have it's going to be a good case to hear the court dates and stuff.
Yeah, man. I'm interested in seeing I'm interested in seeing what the state's response is going to be, because that one is going to have some pretty big details, in my opinion, and also how it'll kind of give us it's like that yin and yang that we talked about, right? You don't want too much of one, because if you just take too much of that one side, you end up becoming a radical yourself, right? You kind of want to stay in the center, right? And for us, what we do is we'll look at the, things from the perspective of the defense and the prosecution. And in order to do that, and to kind of figure out what is true, because it's usually, like I mentioned earlier, somewhere in the middle, we need to get that what the prosecution is saying. The Odinism angle is not the reasoning for the search warrant to get thrown out. It's the fact that police lied about what witnesses saw. Yeah, we didn't. I don't think we said that the Odinism was the angle for the search warrant. We're just talking about Odinism and its possibility connection to the case. What's up, Big Blue?
And I don't think the witnesses lied, because they actually had video and pictures, and you can see, I think, Richard Allen walking by. I remember when those kids were taking like a selfie, I think, at the bench, or a video of themselves.
No. The lying, I think, is supposedly they added bloody to a statement, like, to the guy that was walking down the street. He was apparently just muddy, and it wasn't muddy and bloody. And apparently, I'm not sure if it was him or if it was the witness that saw Richard Allen on the bridge, allegedly, may have said that the person they saw had a tan jacket. One of these witnesses saw a tan jacket, not a blue jacket. And so,
if you fall in mud, it's going to turn into a tan jacket.
Right. But, those things were changed. So I understand that. I would too try to get that thrown out. And if they get that thrown out, dude, this is going to be one difficult case to prosecute this guy. At this point, according to the defense, they say there's no connection. Where have we heard that before? There's no connection between Richard Allen and the victims, no connection between Richard Allen and Odinism.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
The thing is, we don't know what he was wearing under the jacket either. What if he had the jacket tied around his waist and it was covered in mud, and the shirt that he had under was tan. We don't know that.
Oh, that's possible. That's possible.
It was a warmer day.
Yeah. But that like I said earlier, the warmer day and the fact that he was dressed in that manner, bridge guy, right? And they believe, police, law enforcement has come out in the probable cause affidavit. They believe that the person on that video is either responsible or involved in this case, right? In this incident. And they believe that person took their lives. So, you look at the guy in the video, he's dressed head to toe in heavy gear for an unusually warm day. He has a big coat, hat on, a scarf was what it looks like. I think you can see undershirt, and also, his jeans.
But do you remember when we did the story and there was that road that went under the bridge and there was a truck on it? Do you remember what color the truck was?
The trail cam, which one?
No, there was like a bridge, right? And then the road went under, and then there was a truck that was driving by, color too. And I think it was the same day we took that video. So there was that road that was by there too. It was a while back. We covered this case, I want to say almost a year ago, and that's how long it's been since we've seen all the videos. And we've seen the videos of people walking the trail. We explained the timeline on the trail. So if y'all want to go back and look at some of our old, videos, we have some pretty good information on them. We've been working on so many other cases and so much other stuff that, we forget a little bit of the facts here and there sometimes. At least I do. Right now I'm learning, mathematical theories of negation and critical thinking and all this fun stuff.
Yeah, well, Blue's trying to take over the world. But here's the thing. So it says the bridge guy video wasn't recorded from the phone they found. Y'all never heard it was downloaded into it. And there's a walkie-talkie click sound after down the hill and frequency sound heard too. I don't know. I don't think that would be planted then. And this document over here, I can't find it right now, but I read earlier that they claim that the phone that they found underneath Libby, they found a phone, and that this was the phone that recorded or sent out the video that they had. So that phone is the phone that they used. It's not necessarily they took the image or the video from that phone, but they believe that's the phone that was used to create the Snapchat. So, when it comes to this case, I just it's crazy, dude. This is crazy. The young man sketch looks like Elvis Fields. I'll pull those up real quick.
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember the young man sketch. It was different than the one that they finally used.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe if it looks like them, they should go ask some questions like they do to everybody else. But we can't accuse people, man, because that takes it down the wrong road. You don't want to be down that road.
If anybody has a picture of Ellis Fields, please email it to me. And if it's in here, let me know what page it is. I haven't gone through all 137 pages or 36 pages, to be honest with you. Like I said, we just wanted to talk about what the case or the scene was, and if it's logical or probable that one person could have committed that crime. I don't think so. Not in the time that the prosecution is claiming that it was done in. Thank you, Angel D. We appreciate that, as always. One of our mods and members. If you guys want to be a member, hit that join button. It's pinned at the top. It'll You get some of the perks. I think we're going to do a members show this weekend. We didn't get a chance to last weekend because I ended up flying out to Pennsylvania. But this weekend, I'm definitely going to do that. But yeah, but I don't think it was done by himself. I think that I think there's some reasonable doubt too, man. At the very least.
I mean, yeah, it took him 7 years to finally catch him. I think, if I'm right. I think 7 years. I think.
5, I think.
5.
Yeah, it was 5 years.
It's coming back to my memory now. A little bit, but it's hard to remember all these cases.
It's okay, Blue. I do. I remember a lot. And, when it comes to this case, though, like I said, we got into this case when Richard Allen was arrested. So that's where our starting point was at. So a lot of these guys I'm not familiar with. I'm not familiar with Ellis Fields. I'm not familiar with Brad Holder or any of the I don't want to call them gentlemen. I don't know who they are. Any of the men that were brought in this document, right? So no, I went to the Steelers and Browns game. I'll be going. The next one I'm going to is the Houston game. Steelers in Houston, not this weekend, but next weekend. So, like I said,
the Browns. Let's go. I don't like the Browns.
Yeah, I don't either. But
I like their mascot though, the bulldog.
No, I don't like anything. But moving on. So where are you at? I know in the beginning of the podcast you said that you thought that it was just a one-person job. Now that you know what has been described as at the crime scene, how it was laid out to a certain extent, what are your thoughts now? You still think that it was a one-person gig?
It can be a one-person gig, but it would be pre-planned to bring all that stuff, and he already had that stuff there. So with the time limit, the 2 victims, it is a little bit more in my mind that maybe he had some help. But I still think, with all those, we don't have all the evidence. Like I said, if I had the evidence of saying, hey, we found 3 sets of footprints next to the bodies. Okay, well, that leads me more to believe that, now the theory of people being more than one person there is right, so until we get all that information, but the hard part is the search party was there too, you know what I mean? And their footprints are there. So, and what if not the sprinkling of the blood prep, but what if one of them is part of that religion and they did that because it's like a sign of, like a cross over, like so a Catholic person would do over somebody. And
what do you mean?
Like one of the search party guys, maybe they did that. Just
did
part
what?
Of their belief, like did the sticks. But the laying of the body and everything, that's too much of a coincidence. And there was too many of them. And they said they moved the body when they found them. So I think, I don't know.
I don't think it was a one-person gig, man. And I don't think that. I think, when you mentioned the footprints and stuff, there was shoes found, and I think prints going up, on the other side of the river. It didn't seem like there was, more than that, more than, 3 people. I think that there was possibly somebody waiting on the other side of that bridge. You know what I mean?
It could have been.
And I think that they had this, him coming in the direction that he was going to that, and the time, and him walking there with a purpose, and him being seen there, and him putting himself there, matching the description of what we see in the video, right? All those things align to him being bridge guy. I don't think he was the only person. Do you think Ronald Logan could have been involved? Ronald Logan is the guy who owned the property. He was a guy that was heavily, investigated. He lied. He basically came out with an alibi before the bodies were discovered for the time in which the crime was committed. Right. It sounds like he was asking, he asked his cousin for an alibi. And it sounds like, when somebody asks for an alibi before crime is detected, it usually means they had beforehand knowledge of said crime, right? So do you think it's possible, and I thought, Ronald Logan lying was because he was drinking and he violated his parole, which he went to jail for. But do you think it's possible now, knowing all this and how long they may have had to stay there? I mean, I think there's a possibility that it doesn't really sound like there was much blood anywhere, right? No screams. This is broad freaking daylight, dude. Broad daylight.
Yeah.
You think it's possible that it may not even have been committed there? Maybe they took these girls somewhere else and then brought them back.
I mean, that was a theory in the FBI's investigation. That it was Ronald Logan. Remember, he had him pinned as the suspect.
Yeah.
So it's like, man, this case is another one for the storybooks. Where there's so many like theories,
Tentacles.
and there is a little like a little truth to some of the little, I guess you'd call them tentacles. So,
Right.
man, I don't know which way to go. If I go down that rabbit hole, I'm in the wrong. I go down the wrong hole. So.
Well, Ronald Logan had like a garage and a barn out there. Is it possible that the girls were taken up? I mean, it wouldn't have been that far. And you have to remember, they're close to homes. So, this document states that as well. They're close to homes, broad daylight. He kept them from screaming. But, is it possible maybe if Ronald Logan was involved, that they used maybe his barn or storage to commit the crime and then take the girls back down? What do you think?
That would give him more time. That would give him more time to be able to do something.
Right.
And we never found out. I mean, we did find out a little bit of Richard Allen's story of what happened that day. Cause I think he went that same day to the police station, right, to give his statement, or was it the next day? I can't remember. I know he went on his own voluntary to give the statement that he was on the trail.
I think it was that night.
That night, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he just did that to, I don't know, and then he could have gone back. Who knows where he went after that? If he went home, and his wife maybe knows. Maybe on camera going to the bar. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, man. It's crazy. But, I thought that there was no way that somebody was going to take bodies, do crime somewhere else, and come back. That's crazy. But, if Ronald Logan was involved in him having, building or a structure where this could happen nearby and would be hidden from view, that makes a little bit of sense. I don't think that his involvement is further than that, though. He was an older guy. I don't think he was the guy on the bridge. I don't. If you have like 5 people, right, and they're all seem pretty youthful, you're gonna pick the 78-year-old guy to go do the kidnapping part. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And so, I know that they investigate him, and I'm not sure if they ever like cleared him. I don't think there's ever been any statement saying that Ronald Logan had nothing to do with this crime. I just don't think that they've been able to. They haven't found anything that ties him to the crime. So there's a couple of different. It's not necessarily the clearing. Like if he had, video of him somewhere at the time, then that would be a clearing. Where you could positively say, hey, this is where the guy is. But if it's just like his statements and and they find out somehow, I don't know. I didn't think he was cleared. I just didn't think that they thought he was the guy.
Yeah. I know that FBI guy was like, for sure it was him, but he was, I guess, found not to be him.
Well, he also made the statement though, Blue. He made the statement that they asked him if they're gonna find, DNA or evidence, the crime scene and or Libby and Abby in his home or barn, and I think his response was like, I don't know. Why would that be the response? You know what I'm saying? So, I question that aspect, and or maybe perhaps there was maybe not they allowed him to do that, you know what I'm saying? Or that he was an active participant in it. Maybe he just allowed them to do this on his property. Supposedly, his phone records put him in the area where the girls were found, later that night. Know that technology that they use in that situation to triangulate his location on that property is there's a good margin of error in that particular part, in that particular investigation. I don't think they had the ability to, the cast, ability back in 2017 yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know when they started using cast, and then when they were just using triangulation, there was always a little margin of yeah.
So take that with a grain of salt as well. But I don't know. Maybe that's why he went off to go drink during that time. Didn't want to be at home knowing what was going on. I mean, do you find it coincidental that the moment that this guy leaves, right, Ron Logan, is around the time the crime was committed?
I mean, that's a pretty good coincidence, but it can happen.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
And they were saying, how he would have struggled going up and down the terrain because of his age, but he looked pretty healthy for his age. I mean, after that, he went and did a year in jail. So he was healthy enough to be able to live, I think, with General Pop in jail. So he wasn't kept in the sick ward.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think folks in jail will find it too tough to beat up an old guy. You know what I mean? He had said that he went fish shopping, but I think the cameras and the videos have him a little bit later than he said he was there. And it appeared that, one thing that was kind of fishy about that situation, pun intended, was that he apparently bought a large amount of fish that day. That way, the cashier was speculated. That way the cashier would notice him and remember him. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't know. I mean, it's possible that, he's a part of the night stuff as well. And, they use this property.
Yeah, because it's a possibility.
One of the sticks they said that was cut from a saw. Not like you broke it or cracked it, right? Ron Logan had those type of equipments that could have made that, cut very close by.
I think that's why I wondered why I think they were looking at a saw. Remember, I think there was they were looking at a saw when we looked at the FBI affidavit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's been a while. Like I said, I got to refresh my memories.
Yeah, I hear you, my man. Well, we've gone on a little bit longer than we normally do. We'll be kind of shutting it down already. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, mods. Thank you, subscribers, the whole 9 yards. This is a mind blower, dude. I don't know. I think he's involved. You know what I'm saying? I think he's involved. I don't know how involved he is. Is it possible that he walked the girls down the bridge and he just handed those girls off to these 5 guys or whatever, and those guys did what they did, and he really wasn't involved in it other than that aspect, the kidnapping part? I don't know. That's possible. It's pretty crazy though. I don't think this was a one-man show though.
Yeah, I mean, it's sounding to me like it's more like it wasn't, but one man with that amount of time is capable for a lot. I mean, look at the other case we're working on, the BK case, what he did in 8 minutes.
Yeah, but like you would have to
He
assume.
did in 8 minutes.
Yeah, but
He's not
in this
guilty yet.
right, but that was just the life taking aspect, not the staging and the preparation of such ritualistic ceremony that they are, at least alluding that this was. You know what I'm saying? Like this was either a ritualistic ceremony or it was designed to look like one to throw police off, right? Either way, there was a lot of effort and time put into those type of things to bind the sticks, put them on there, put in the right position, take the clothes off, put the clothes on the other little girl while their bodies are wet, and probably the clothes is wet if they ran across the water there. Yeah. So I mean that's going to be difficult. They're going to be, if they've already passed, which is what it sounds like, their bodies, a body that is just like either asleep or unconscious or lifeless is a lot heavier than you think, and it's very difficult to maneuver them.
Trust me, I know, not in a weird way, but the other day I
not in a weird way.
Yeah, it's like, how do you know how that dead body feels like? Well, it wasn't really a dead body, but I was at work and somebody was walking out the door and then they turned around and sat down because their Uber was there. It's like, hey, your Uber's here, you're good to go. And they're like, I don't feel good. I said, oh, okay, you can cancel your Uber, you can see the doctor again, and they're like, no, I don't feel good. I said, okay, well, I'll bring you back to your patient room so the doctor can see you again. So I'm walking her back to the patient room. She's like, I don't feel, and then she stopped talking. I was walking behind her, and I barely caught her, man, before she hit her head on the wall, right? And I was already like in the room because she was like falling forward. So I grabbed her from the shoulder area, and I like picked her up and put her on the bed. Man, my shoulder's been sore for like 2 days. She was probably like 125 though, But catching dead weight like that's pretty heavy on your shoulders, man.
No, I know, my man. In my profession, I've actually had to move all of the above: unconscious, lifeless, the whole 9 yards. Assist with things like that. And yeah, man. There was one guy who had passed. Yeah, and this was a pretty wild situation because apparently late at night, according to the father, this vehicle pulls up and they basically throw his son out into the yard, right? That's what his description was of it. And the father, he was like probably in his mid to late 80s. So he was up there in age. And the guy, the kid that died, he was probably about 25, 26, somewhere around there. And so I don't know if he was his biological father, if he was his grandpa that raised him, but he said it was his son. And, the weird part was that apparently the father yelled out at those guys who dropped his son off like that because he was outside and I don't think they saw him. And what they did was they stopped the car, got out, picked up the person that passed, took him into the house, took his clothes off or his underwear, and laid him on the couch, face, sideways, in case he were to have, puked or whatever. He was apparently highly intoxicated. What ended up happening was he may have turned or something, but he ended up putting his face onto his arm and suffocating. And, when we got there, we I was helping out the detective in the situation, and we had to move the body, and rigor had already set in. Yeah, it was not easy. That guy was like 220 or something.
They get stiff and people are heading.
Yeah, it's insane. Also, Mike, he has an interesting statement. He said, "It blows my mind that Ellie didn't even save the sticks that the perp laid upon the victims." You know, they didn't do that. They apparently took a sample of the F that was drawn on the tree. They didn't cut out the bark or take all of it. They just took a sample of it, and that was it. But yeah, so you know, for this guy who is 5'4", and I think Libby was on the heavier side, right? And probably a little bit taller than him and bigger than him. That's gonna be tough, man, for one guy to do, in my opinion. And the other thing is, there's no DNA either. There was no DNA found there on the bodies from anybody. That's weird, man.
Yeah, that's crazy because, I mean, even just like moving people around, you're gonna get some DNA coming off your fingertips and stuff. But maybe he was wearing gloves, or or fibers. But like I said, maybe I think they checked the fingernails and everything. There was no traces of anything. So
I know, man. I don't think there was.
Yeah.
If there was, I think they would have, gotten Richard Allen's DNA. That would have been one of the first things they did, and they would have tested it. And I think that, I don't know, unless it was maybe a mixture. I don't know. This case just, it's weird, man. But I think a lot of it has to do also is that it happened in a small community with like a small police department, that's probably not experienced in this type of crime.
Yeah.
I know that. Go ahead.
I said, like, I know when stuff would happen, like in a small town I lived in up north, I think it's a town of like 800 people, one police officer. And like, I remember I got pulled over and he literally made me wait on the side, There was 3 of us that were in my car and like in handcuffs because he's like, oh, it's 3 of you, I can't handle y'all. So like he put us in cuffs until the other cop from the other town came to assist, and that was like 20 minutes just sitting on the curb with handcuffs,
But why? Did y'all pose a threat? Did y'all say you were going to hurt him? No. See, that's a violation of your civil rights. That's a Fourth Amendment right. You know what I mean? Like
I probably said something afterwards, but
fucking Boo came out with a mask and
I was like, what was that? I was like 15, I think. 15, yeah. I was driving without a license, and I was doing donuts in my dad's truck and some gas station. But he didn't catch me until like I was almost home. I was like 2 blocks home, and that was pretty far. But he and he said, "Well, I'm not. You didn't do any violations." That's the part that got me more mad. It's like, you didn't do any violations. I was like, well, then why'd you pull me over? It's like somebody said the call was that you're a minor driving without a license, so I need to see your license.
That's bull crap. I mean, that's legal. An officer can do that, but that's weak. That's weak. Because if you stop somebody and they're not what's the word I'm looking for? If they're over the age, then you just committed an illegal stop. You know what I mean? And so, fortunately for that guy, you were illegal. You were underage. So, yeah, you were not legal at that point. Yeah, dude. I remember one time I did the same thing when I was in high school at the mall, and I left, right, and I went down the back road, and I could see the lights coming down as I was already leaving. I saw from the distance the lights heading towards the mall. So I stayed on the other side of town the rest of the night. Never got caught, obviously.
Yeah, you weren't doing donuts in a small town of like 800 people. They're kind of.
Were you trying to improve what?
No, I just went to see a buddy of mine, and he did some donuts in his Porsche. I said I could do them in my F-150. So.
Well. That's an experience, my man. That's an experience. I want to thank everybody again. We're going to be signing off. We got any final words for everybody?
No, y'all take care, everybody. Thank you for being on with us today. Y'all take care, and remember, this is also a sad story of two young ladies that lost their lives. So
Sure,
condolences go out to the family.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't imagine. I don't know if they knew about this type of detail or information about what was going on. It must breaking, having to hear this or whatnot for them. So yes, our thoughts and prayers go out to them. We want, again, thank everybody, and we'll see you guys on Friday night.